I used to love rainy nights. The sound of water hitting the windows, the cool air, the quiet comfort of staying in while everything outside was soaked and still. But now I dread them. And it all started last spring. I live alone in a small, one-bedroom rental house on the outskirts of a town in Washington. It's surrounded by forest, which is beautiful in the daytime, but at night, especially when it's raining, it gets eerily quiet. Like the trees soak up all the noise along with the water. It was a Thursday night in May. I remember because I had just finished a brutal double shift at the restaurant I work at. I got home around 9 p.m., soaked from the walk from my car to the porch. The rain was coming down hard, the kind that makes you want to bundle up and forget the world for a bit. I locked the door, threw my wet clothes in the hamper, and settled on the couch with a blanket and some leftover pizza. I put on a movie I don't even remember which one and just zoned out. By 11, I was half asleep, listening to the heavy rain tapping against the windows. Then I heard a knock. It was faint. At first, I thought it was part of the movie, but then it came again. A soft, deliberate knock. Not on the front door, though it came from the back that immediately put me on edge. There's only one way to the backyard, and it's through a gate that creaks like hell. I hadn't heard it open. I paused the movie and sat perfectly still, waiting. Knock, knock, knock. 3 more, just as soft. I tiptoed toward the kitchen, which faces the backyard. The door there is a small, fogged window at the top. I couldn't see out clearly, but there was definitely a shadow on the other side. Someone was standing there, not moving, just waiting. I didn't say anything. I didn't open the door. I just stood there, heart pounding, watching the unmoving figure through the blur of the rain-streaked glass. After about a minute, the shadow moved not away, but to the side, disappearing out of my view. I ran to the front of the house and peeked through the blinds. Nothing. I stayed up the whole night. Never saw him again. No footsteps, no gate sounds, no car driving off. By morning, I convinced myself it was just someone lost or maybe drunk. It happens. Maybe they knocked, didn't get an answer, and left. But that wasn't the end of it. The next night, it rained again. Harder this time. And again, around 11:30 p.m. Knock, knock, knock. Same pattern. Same door. I didn't move. I didn't make a sound. I sat on the floor behind the couch, phone in hand, ready to call the cops if it went any further. After a while, the knock stopped. I didn't sleep the following day. I checked the backyard. The ground was muddy from the rain, and sure enough, there were footprints. Bare feet, not shoes. They led from the edge of the woods straight to my back door. Then back again. That night, I went to stay with a friend. Over the weekend, the weather cleared. I figured maybe it was over. Maybe whoever it was moved on. So I came back Sunday afternoon. Everything looked normal. Nothing was missing, no signs of a break-in. Then Sunday night, around midnight, it started to drizzle, and I heard something different. Not knocking this time. Scratching, not claws. Fingers, fingernails dragging across the glass of the back door. I froze. I didn't go to the kitchen. I turned off all the lights and sat in the dark. My heart was racing. I kept waiting for it to stop, but it didn't. The scratching went on for nearly 5 minutes. Just slow, methodical, like whoever it was wanted me to know they weren't going away. Then it stopped, and I heard the gate creak open. I called the cops that time. They came out, took a look around, but the rain had washed away any footprints. They said they'd patrol the area more frequently. They told me to get security cameras. So I did. A whole set front, back, and sides. The next few nights were quiet until the next storm. It was around 2 a.m. I was already in bed, lights off, trying to sleep through the sound of thunder and rain. My phone buzzed motion alert from the backyard. Camera. I opened the app and tapped into the feed. There he was, a tall figure standing by the back door, wearing nothing but a soaked, oversized hoodie, his bare feet caked in mud. He just stood there, head tilted, staring into the camera. Then, slowly, he raised his hand and waved. I called the cops immediately. They arrived within 15 minutes. He was gone, but this time, they caught something. About 30 feet into the woods behind the house, they found a spot where someone had been staying. A sort of crude shelter tarp, some food wrappers, a few old water bottles, and a journal. They let me see it. The pages were wet, but some were legible. It wasn't normal writing, just the same lines repeated over and over in jagged, shaky handwriting. The rain keeps me clean. The rain keeps me near. She locked the door, but the rain washes away the lock. That was enough for me. I moved 2 weeks later, broke the lease, lost my deposit, didn't care. I haven't had a rainy night like that since, and I don't want to, but sometimes I wonder, did he ever come back? Did he find someone else? Someone who didn't lock their door? I still check my cameras when it rains, just in case. It happened 2 years ago, on a rainy Saturday night in late September. I was house sitting for my aunt and uncle while they were out of town for the weekend. They live in a small 2-story house about 20 minutes outside of Eugene, Oregon, right where the suburbs begin to fade into rural stretches. Lots of trees, long, narrow roads. Quiet. The rain had started around p.m., not a drizzle, but full-on cold, steady rainfall. The kind that makes you want to stay inside and wrap yourself in a blanket. I had just ordered pizza, queued up a few horror movies on Netflix, and settled in for what I thought would be a relaxing night. Around 9:45 p.m., I heard the doorbell ring, which immediately struck me as odd. No one ever visited my aunt and uncle unannounced, especially not during a storm. I paused the movie and got up to check. Peeking through the peephole, there was a man standing on the porch. He was facing the door, but his head was down. A black hood covered most of his face. He wasn't moving, just standing there, soaking wet. My first thought was that maybe he was in trouble, a car accident, stranded in the storm. But something about him felt off. I didn't open the door. I called out, "Can I help you?" Through the door. He didn't respond. I asked again, louder this time. "Hey, are you okay?" Still nothing. Then slowly, he lifted his head and smiled. That's the moment I knew I wasn't dealing with someone who needed help. His smile was wide, way too wide, and his eyes were wide open, unblinking. Just standing there in the pouring rain, looking directly into the peephole. I backed away from the door and grabbed my phone. I was about to call the police when the doorbell rang again. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, 3 times. Slow, deliberate, then silence. I crept back to the peephole, but he was gone. I thought maybe he had left, maybe realized someone was home and backed off. I stood there for a moment, unsure of what to do next. That's when I heard the softest knock coming from the back of the house. Tap, tap, tap. There's a sliding glass door in the kitchen that leads to the backyard. I walked slowly down the hallway and into the kitchen, heart pounding. The curtain was drawn. but I could see a faint outline through the fabric. Someone was standing at the glass. I froze. Every instinct I had told me not to pull that curtain aside. But I had to know. I yanked it open. There he was, the same man, face pressed up against the glass, still grinning. His breath fogged the window. He didn't move, didn't flinch, just stared. I screamed and stumbled backward, dropping my phone. By the time I grabbed it and looked again, he was gone. I locked every door and window in the house, turned off the lights, and called the police. They said they'd send a unit, but that it might take a while due to the weather and distance from town. So I waited, curled up on the couch with a kitchen knife and the dog who, strangely, never barked the entire time. The storm outside got worse. Thunder, sheets of rain, wind pushing against the walls of the house. About 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang again. I didn't move. Then, something slid through the mail slot at the bottom of the door, a piece of paper. Just one word, written in what looked like red ink. Alone. That's when I started crying. I didn't care what he wanted. I didn't care who he was. I just wanted him gone. I called 911 again, begging them to hurry. A police cruiser pulled up 10 minutes later. The man was long gone. They searched the property and found footprints all around the house, leading from the front to the back and back again. They said it looked like he had been circling the house for a while. He never came back. I stayed up the rest of the night, knife in hand, every light in the house turned on. I never house sat for my aunt and uncle again. They didn't really believe the story until the cops confirmed someone had been there. To this day, I still check the back door every time it rains. I used to love rainy nights. The sound of water hitting the windows, the cool air, the quiet comfort of being inside while the world outside drowned in silence. But now I dread them, and it all started last spring. I live alone. A small, one-bedroom rental on the edge of a forested town in Washington. Beautiful by day, unnervingly silent by night, especially when it rains. It's the kind of silence that feels wrong. Like the trees aren't just soaking up the water, but the sound to it was a Thursday night in May. I remember because I just finished a brutal double shift at the restaurant. I got home around p.m. soaked from head to toe. The rain was relentless. One of those nights where all you want is warmth, food, and nothing else. I locked the door, tossed my wet clothes into the hamper, curled up on the couch with a blanket, some leftover pizza, and a random movie. By 11, I was half asleep, with the sound of rain tapping softly against the glass. And then I heard a knock. First, I thought it was the movie, but then it came again. Soft, deliberate, not at the front door. The sound came from the back. Immediately, I felt something shift inside me. The only way to my backyard is through a gate, and that thing screams when it moves. But I hadn't heard it. I paused the movie, sat perfectly still. Knock, knock, knock. 3 more, just as soft. I crept toward the kitchen. The back door has a small, fogged-up window. I couldn't see clearly, but I saw the shadow. Someone was standing on the other side, not moving, not speaking, just there. I didn't open the door, didn't say a word. I stood there, frozen, heart pounding, staring at the shadow blurred by the rain. After a minute, the figure moved, not away, but to the side, out of view. I rushed to the front window and peeked through the blinds. Nothing. I didn't sleep. That night, I didn't hear the gate. No footsteps. No car. By morning, I told myself it was someone lost, maybe drunk. A mistake, but it wasn't the end. The next night, it rained again. Harder, and again around 11:30 p.m. knock. 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 Same door. Same rhythm. I didn't move. Sat on the floor behind the couch, phone in hand, ready to call the cops. Eventually, the knocking stopped, but I didn't sleep. The next morning, I checked the yard. Mud. Everywhere. And in it footprints. Bare. Feet. They led from the edge of the woods. Straight to my back door. Then back again. That night, I stayed at a friend's. The weekend passed. No rain. No knocking. I thought maybe it was over. So I came home Sunday. Everything looked normal. No signs of forced entry. Nothing missing, but that night, around midnight, it started to drizzle, and the sound I heard wasn't knocking. It was scratching. Not claws. Fingernails. Dragging. Across the glass on the back door, I froze. Didn't move. Turned off every light in the house. The scratching didn't stop. It went on. For 5 long minutes. Slow. Methodical. Like they wanted me to know they weren't leaving. Then, silence. And the gate creaked open. I called the cops. They arrived quickly, searched the area, but the rain had erased everything. They suggested patrols and cameras. So I bought a full system. Front, back, sides for a few nights. Nothing until the next storm, around a.m. I was in bed when my phone buzzed. Motion alert, backyard camera. I opened the app. He was there, a tall figure, standing by the back door, wearing nothing but a soaked hoodie, bare feet covered in mud. He just stood there, head tilted, staring directly into the camera, and then he waved. I called the cops again. This time they found something about 30 feet into the woods. A crude shelter, tarp, old water bottles, food wrappers, and a journal. They let me look at it. The pages were wet, but readable. Same sentence, over and over in jagged handwriting. The rain keeps me clean. The rain keeps me near. She locked the door, but the rain washes away the lock. That was it for me. I broke the lease. Moved out within 2 weeks. Lost my deposit. Didn't care. I haven't had a rainy night like that since. But sometimes I wonder, did he ever come back? Did he find someone else? Someone who didn't lock their door? I still check my cameras when it rains, just in case.